Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of Ahsan Academy, let me welcome you to a presentation on thoracic vertebra. Let us fix the objective. First, I will discuss the formation of the thoracic part of the vertebral column. Then, one by one, the individual thoracic vertebra features will be discussed, and every stage the clinical correlation will be made. Thoracic part of the vertebral column is formed by the thoracic vertebrae and the joint between them. This joint has a intervertebral disc, so the total column is formed by the vertebrae as well as the intervertebral disc between them. There are 12 thoracic vertebrae. Of them, 2nd to 8th are typical in nature. The first one, as well as the 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th are atypical in nature. What does the typical means? That each of the member of this typical vertebra contains the similar characteristics and no deviations are there. Atypical means some of the features that is present in the typical thoracic vertebra are absent and some special features are present. Let us see the features of a typical thoracic vertebra. Thoracic vertebra comprises of a body. This is the body. This is also known as centrum, and the vertebral arch. From here, the vertebral arch is making an arch over there. So these two ends of the arch are attached to the posterolateral part of the body. This is part of the arch that is known as pedicle, and this part of the arch is known as lamina. The color changed area, this is the foramen opening, and this is known as vertebral foramen. From this pedicle and laminar junction, two processes, one extend up and one extend below on either side. These are articular processes, superior articular process and inferior articular process. Over there is facet, plain area for making joint. This is known as articular facet. This is the transverse process. The transverse process is also having one facet close to the tip. This one is the spine. This is pointed and obliquely placed. It's directed posterior-inferiorly. So the vertebral arch is formed by the pedicle and lamina, and this transverse process and spinous process. You can see the typical thoracic vertebra from the side, and this is from the front. That means the student is on the back, and this one is we are observing from the superior aspects. So from these three views, every part of the typical thoracic vertebrae are clearly visible. The rounded red line and the color indicates the upper surface of the typical thoracic vertebra, and this is a heart shape. These are the two facets on the posterolateral part of the body and one costal facet on the transverse process close to the tip, and you see the upper costal facet is of the body is much larger than the inferior one. The costal facet of the transverse process is more rounded and concave. The arrow indicating the vertebral foramen In case of thoracic vertebra, these are small and circular. The arrow is indicating the pedicle. It is short and thick and broad. See, this is the spinous process which is directed downwards and posteriorly. This is the articular facet present on the superior articular process. This directs down posteriorly, and the lower articular process has facet that directs anteriorly. The pedicle, the inferior border of the pedicle, make a very deep notch. This is known as inferior vertebral notch. So this is very deep in case of thoracic vertebra than the superior vertebral notch. Atypical thoracic vertebra, as we have discussed earlier, the first thoracic, 10th, 11th and 12th thoracic, and sometimes 9th is also atypical. They say this, the articular facet present in the body of the first thoracic vertebra are circular in nature. The inferior one is very small. The body gradually become smaller in case of thoracic vertebrae, and the third thoracic vertebral body is the smallest one. Then again it gradually increases in size. In case of atypical other three, the lower three, the 10th thoracic vertebra has rounded upper facet that is very close to the upper border. In case of 11, this is in the midway between the upper border and the lower border. And in case of the 12th, it is close to the lower border. The transverse process of the two lower thoracic vertebra means 11th and 12th not having any articular facet. So the vertebral column is formed by the vertebra as well as intervertebral disc and other joints. These joints has some ligaments connecting the different parts of the bone. The muscle surrounds the vertebral column and makes it as a strong axis of the body. The intervertebral disc is especially important because of its special function other than making the joint between two vertebral bodies. This is specially having a very tough outer layer. This is circular, composed of circular layers of fibers, and it is known as outer fibrous layer, annulus fibrosus, and inner part is relatively jelly-like, so this is known as nucleus pulposus. This together, this joint is known as fibrocartilage, one type of fibrocartilage. Thank you very much for remaining with the presentation.